At 3 a.m., Maya Collins' phone buzzed once and then dissolved into silence, sharp enough to wound. The black screen stared back like a closed door, rain drilling against the window pane. A single notification blinked awake, carrying words colder than the hour. "We need to talk." Her pulse staggered. She whispered into the dark, "Ethan, not like this." The night held no reply, only the hum of neon beyond the glass. Memories of midnight calls unfurled, his voice steady, his laughter low, oceans folding into seconds. She clutched the phone as if warmth could be begged from it. "Tell me it's nothing," she pleaded to the empty room. The message remained heavy, unyielding. She set the device down, only to grab it back, unwilling to let go. "Call me again, please," she muttered, as dread pulled every memory tighter. Outside, the city hissed alive, uncaring, while inside the weight of silence spread across her chest. She typed, deleted, typed again, but no words survived the screen. The message waited like a verdict, and she waited like someone braced for sentencing. Morning crept in with washed-out skies, leaving Maya unchanged from the night before. Coffee steamed bitter in a chipped mug, but exhaustion dulled the taste. She scrolled through unread chats, counting blue ticks like lifelines. Last week's promises replayed in her mind, words once golden now rusting. She whispered, "You told me to trust the plan." A horn blared below, mocking her stillness. She replayed voice notes filled with waves and laughter, reminders of a distance once bearable. "You swore the calls were our bridge," she said softly. Now the bridge looked like ashes. Drafting a message, she erased a smiley face, then typed, "Are you okay?" and paused at the blinking cursor. Fear fought her resolve, yet her thumb pressed send. The screen went blank, and silence widened. The delivery trucks outside thumped forward, life moving without her. Inside, her heartbeat echoed the same drum, waiting for an answer she wasn't sure would come. By noon, unanswered voicemails stretched like locked doors in a hallway. Maya paced, rug fibers crushed beneath her restless steps. "He is busy, not cruel," she repeated, practicing steadier tones than she felt. She pulled up their shared calendar, tracing planned visits like constellations, once bright, now faint. A small online status appeared, then vanished, sharper than a slap. Doubt entered quietly and refused to leave. She opened albums of sunsets, hearing promises attached to them. "You," said the next flight. "The next month," she murmured. The clock ticked with a cruel rhythm, measuring distance in seconds. A message arrived from Nora Hayes. "Are you eating?" Maya typed back, "Later." Nora wrote, "Call me." She closed the thread, unwilling to explain what could not be explained. Picking up the phone, she pressed record, then stopped, deleting the proof of her need. She tilted her head to the ceiling, whispering, "Hold," as if the day itself could obey. Evening folded in violet, and a message finally arrived. Long day, exhausted. No mention of the earlier dagger. Relief and anger collided in her chest. "You dropped a grenade, then a sigh," she said under her breath. She typed, "Are we okay?" then erased it. Another ping, a rooftop photo with city lights, his name tagged by Lila Brooks. Her pulse stumbled. "Is she new, or am I late?" she asked the window. The caption smiled back, careless and bright. He followed with, "Just colleagues." The word felt weak, worn thin by years of use. "Then why did the night bleed?" she whispered. She thought of calling Nora, but left it buried. Outside, the city sang loud, but inside she felt sealed in storm's residue. Her eyes stayed fixed on the screen as the typing bubble blinked, lingered, and died. Night returned heavier than before. Maya opened a hidden draft folder titled Someday, filled with unsent truths. "If I matter, choose me in daylight, not in the shadows of midnight," she whispered. She typed. That text broke me, then softened it to last night, scared me. Honesty fought with caution, and caution won. His reply came muted, "Let's talk tomorrow." Tomorrow felt like a shelf for abandoned promises. Tomorrow is where hope waits to die, she muttered. She set her phone face up, shrine-like on the table. The rain ended, leaving the window salted with dry droplets that glittered under streetlight. She wondered what a clean break would sound like, but couldn't imagine silence large enough. "Give me a reason to stay," she asked the still air. The refrigerator hummed, the streetlight sighed, and her alarm blinked, set for 2:59 a.m. She would wait again, because waiting had become her only language. Sunday arrived with skies washed pale, but the apartment carried the residue of unanswered nights. Maya Collins scrolled old conversations, reading every word as if they were fresh wounds. His promises of forever gleamed in pixels, but forever felt brittle now. She whispered, "You swore distance couldn't kill us." The kettle whined, sharp against the quiet. She carried her mug back to the couch and stared at the door as if Ethan Ward might walk in, though he was continents away. The silence inside her chest grew heavy. Friends laughed on the street outside, but their voices felt like reminders of what she no longer had. Nora Hayes' messages blinked again, urging her to call, urging her to confess the ache she carried. Maya replied only with a thumbs-up emoji, her heart unwilling to speak. She leaned her forehead against the glass and whispered, "How much of me will vanish before he notices?" The afternoon blurred into shades of gray as Maya opened the shoebox beneath her bed. Letters and photos spilled out, pieces of Ethan's promises folded into ink and snapshots. She traced the edges of an old note, the handwriting jagged from rush. "You said I was your constant," she murmured. The ink smudges felt more alive than the silence of her phone. She pressed the paper to her chest, willing it to beat like a second heart. Her mind returned to the nights when his voice arrived like clockwork, anchoring her against loneliness. Now, hours dragged unbroken, each one stealing part of her certainty. She whispered to the papers, "If I am constant, why does he drift?" Outside, clouds gathered, heavy with rain, their darkness sliding into the room. She lit a candle, not for romance but survival, hoping the flicker would drown out the absence. By evening, the storm broke outside, rain smearing the windows into streaks of blurred motion. Maya sat with her phone resting against her palm, scrolling Ethan's photos online. New images appeared, smiles with colleagues, rooftop lights, glasses raised. Among them, Lila Brooks' face recurred, close, familiar, threatening. Maya's chest burned. She whispered, "You promised no one else could take my place." She studied the angle of their laughter, the distance between their shoulders. It was a distance smaller than the ocean between her and him. The rain pounded harder, each drop echoing her suspicions. She typed, erased, typed again, her words caught between accusation and pleading. No message felt right, so none were sent. She stared at the phone, daring it to light with his name, but it remained a black mirror, reflecting only her waiting. Later that night, her phone finally buzzed. Ethan's message read, "Sorry, busy again." No apology for silence, no mention of her unraveling days. Her heart clenched, torn between relief at hearing from him and fury at the emptiness of his words. "Busy is not love," she whispered. She typed, "Do you remember me at night?" then deleted it. She wrote again, "I feel invisible," but fear swallowed the truth. She settled on, "Hope you're okay," sending it like a surrender. The rain softened outside, leaving only the drip of gutters. Maya leaned against her pillow, staring upward as if answers might appear on the ceiling. The clock hands dragged toward midnight, the hour when once she felt closest to him. She whispered, "Call me, prove that I still exist." The phone lay still, cold against her palm. When midnight came, silence returned heavier than thunder. Maya set the phone beside her ear, as if proximity might conjure his voice. The alarm clock ticked with merciless precision. She closed her eyes, imagining the sound of Ethan's laugh spilling into the room, but the silence swallowed her daydreams. She whispered, "I built my nights around your words." The window's reflection showed her face, pale and worn, a ghost lit by streetlights. She thought of Nora, of the advice she ignored, of the strength she pretended to carry. Her phone buzzed once, just an app notification, nothing more. The letdown cracked through her chest like glass. "How long before I vanish completely?" she asked the ceiling. With that, she curled under the blanket, clutching her phone like a fragile relic, drifting into sleep, still waiting. The week dragged with unanswered calls, and Maya Collins carried silence like a stone in her chest. She replayed Ethan Ward's last short replies until the words lost shape. Her friends invited her out, but she declined, unwilling to fake smiles. At night, she lay awake, watching the phone glow faintly on her nightstand. "If love is strong, why does it feel so fragile?" she whispered. The clock ticked louder than her heartbeat, every second stretching into judgment. When the phone finally buzzed, it wasn't Ethan but another app reminder, cruel in its timing. She buried her face in her pillow and breathed into the cotton until her lungs begged for air. The night became her confessional, every thought louder when spoken aloud. "Answer me, Ethan," she pleaded, though only the hum of the refrigerator responded. Distance no longer measured miles, but the weight of unspoken truths pressing into her. Morning sunlight slipped through blinds, harsh and cold. Maya sat at the table with uneaten toast, scrolling the thread of messages that had grown thin and brittle. Each reply from Ethan felt shorter, like a rope fraying with time. She whispered, "Do you even hear me anymore?" She tapped the call icon but let it ring out, afraid of the emptiness she might meet. Nora Hayes' message appeared again. "You can't live like this." Maya ignored it, sipping coffee gone lukewarm. Her reflection in the window looked older than yesterday, etched by sleepless nights. She whispered, "Love should not feel like begging." Outside, children laughed, their joy cruelly indifferent. She closed her eyes and pictured Ethan's voice, but could no longer summon the tone that once felt certain. Every sip of coffee grew heavier, like swallowing silence itself. By evening, Ethan's name finally lit her screen. But it wasn't a call, only a text. "Sorry, can't talk now, maybe later." The word "maybe" sliced her open. Maya clenched the phone and whispered, "Later has become never." She typed back, "I need to hear your voice," then erased it. She walked the apartment in restless circles, her bare feet tracing the same path. The walls felt closer than they were, pressing her into corners of thought. "Why do I wait for scraps?" she muttered, pacing faster. Rain returned outside, beating rhythm into the silence inside. Thought of calling Lila Brooks clawed at her, but fear of the truth pinned her down. Instead, she pressed the phone against her heart as if it could feel her pulse. "If love is still alive, prove it," she begged the empty room. The next day, Maya's patience cracked in the quiet. She opened Ethan's social feed, scrolling through smiling photos, each one feeling staged for her absence. A new picture with Lila Brooks surfaced, their laughter captured under golden lights. Maya whispered, "Do you know what this looks like?" The caption read "Team Night Out," harmless words sharpened by context. Her thumb hovered over the comment box, trembling with fury. She wrote, deleted, rewrote, then finally closed the app, unable to bear the spiral. She dropped the phone onto the bed and pressed her palms into her face. The room felt airless, her chest locked in invisible chains. She whispered, "I'm still here waiting, while you dance in another world." The silence afterward cut sharper than noise ever could. That night, the weight of days pressed into her bones. She lit no lamp, sitting in darkness with the phone glowing faintly against her lap. Midnight came, and no call followed. The silence grew unbearable, pressing against her ears like static. She whispered, "This is not distance, it's erasure." The clock marked each second like a hammer striking stone. Tears welled, but she swallowed them, unwilling to give silence the satisfaction. Nora's name lit the screen again, her concern relentless, but Maya silenced it with a swipe. She whispered to the shadows, "I don't need pity, I need him." Her reflection in the glass looked hollow, a figure dissolving into loneliness. With shaking hands, she set the phone face down, a tiny act of defiance against a world that kept her waiting. The following evening, Maya Collins opened her email to find a bank statement she had not expected. Transfers she never knew about flowed from her account to Ethan Ward's name, hidden behind excuses of bills and emergencies. Her chest tightened as she whispered, "So this is what my love paid for." She scrolled line after line, her hands trembling against the keyboard. Every withdrawal was a piece of her trust silently carved away. The reality she once ignored now stood like a shadow in her room. She pressed her palms against her eyes, as if darkness could erase numbers written in cold ink. The betrayal was not only silence, but theft disguised as need. "You asked for help and I gave it freely," she whispered, "but you never told me the cost." The truth lay bare in front of her, undeniable and sharp as broken glass. Hours later, her phone lit with Ethan's message. "Had to cover things here, don't be mad." The words landed like a confession sharpened by cowardice. Maya whispered, "You used me without asking." She typed back, "Why didn't you tell me?" but erased it, her anger still raw. Her reflection in the dark screen stared back, bruised by sleeplessness and grief. She whispered again, "I thought distance was our enemy." The apartment felt smaller, the air thicker with betrayal. She pulled her knees to her chest, rocking slowly, as if to calm a storm she could not name. Nora's number blinked again, and this time she almost answered, but pride held her back. She whispered into the emptiness, "I gave everything, and he counted it as nothing." The storm outside rose as if echoing her fury. Maya dug deeper into old chats, finding excuses she once believed, now sharp with truth. She remembered the times Ethan claimed sudden costs, always vague but urgent. Her heart clenched as she whispered, "You turned me into your safety net, not your love." She stood abruptly, pacing the apartment with phone in hand. The weight of years of sacrifice pressed down, threatening to break her spine. She looked at the photo on the corkboard of his smile, once her anchor, now an artifact of deception. The storm battered the window harder, and she welcomed its chaos because it mirrored her own. "Tell me it was for us, not just for you," she begged, voice shaking. But the silence inside her apartment refused to give answers. Later that night, another photo appeared online, Ethan smiling with colleagues, glass raised high, carefree. Among them was Lila Brooks, her hand brushing his arm, her laughter wide and unhidden. Maya's chest hollowed out. She whispered, "So, while I paid, you celebrated." Her pulse raced as she zoomed in, seeing how near they stood, how his eyes softened when looking her way. She dropped the phone onto the table, palms pressing against the wood as if grounding herself from crumbling. The betrayal was no longer suspicion but evidence. She whispered, "How could I love a ghost who spends his nights alive with someone else?" The candle beside her guttered in the draft, and for a moment the room was pitch black, except for the cold glow of the screen. By midnight, Maya sat motionless on the floor, surrounded by scattered photos, letters and bills, all proof of a love she had shouldered alone. Her hands hovered above the pieces, unable to gather them, unwilling to let them go. She whispered, "I built my life around waiting, and he built his around hiding." The clock struck 12, and silence thickened, heavy enough to drown her. She pulled the blanket around her shoulders and stared at the ceiling, her lips trembling. "I thought I was his home," she whispered, "but I was only his escape." The weight of truth pressed into her chest, harder than the distance ever had. She closed her eyes, but sleep would not come, only the echo of betrayal that now filled every corner of the room. Midnight found the courage she had postponed. Maya Collins dialed Ethan Ward and waited through the drone of distant rings. The call clicked alive, and his breath met the silence first. Maya said, "Do not hang up." Ethan said, "It's late." Her hands shook, but her voice steadied. Maya said, "You sent, 'We need to talk,' then vanished." He sighed like a door closing. Ethan said, "Work exploded." She stared at the window, salted with old rain. Maya said, "My account shows transfers I never agreed to." On the line, a street noise flared, then died. Ethan said, I told you I had emergencies. She felt the room tilt under the word. Maya said, you told me after the money moved. A long pause stretched thin. Ethan said, I thought you understood. She pressed fingertips to her eyes. Maya said, I understood you needed me. You never asked if I could afford it. The call tightened like a wire across distance. Maya said, why is Lila Brooks in every late photo? Ethan's tone lowered. Ethan said, she is a friend from work. Her laugh arrived hollow. Maya said, friends do not replace midnight calls. He exhaled the word sorry, as if it cost him nothing. Ethan said, I'm exhausted. She paced slow circles, counting breaths. Maya said exhausted people still answer the truth. He bristled. Ethan said, you are overreading everything. She stopped pacing. Maya said, numbers are not feelings, they are facts. The ceiling groaned with the building's restless pipes. Ethan said, I never meant to hurt you. She turned toward the window as if oceans could hear. Maya said, meaning nothing is cheaper than what you took. He raised his voice first, brittle at the edges. Ethan said, this is temporary. She felt the word splinter. Maya said, temporary has lasted a year. He tried another path. Ethan said, Lila helped with contacts. The name stung. Maya said, then why did you write, we need to talk at 3 a.m.? He hesitated. Ethan said, I panicked. She steadied her breath. Maya said, panic does not wire money out of trust. His silence thickened until the line almost hummed. Ethan said, I thought we were a team. She stared at the small altar of their photos. Maya said, teams share choices, not aftermath. He sounded smaller. Ethan said, tell me what to do. She closed her eyes. Maya said, start with the truth, then face what it costs. The storm inside finally broke. Maya said, did you ask Lila for help when you should have asked me for honesty? He bristled again. Ethan said, do not drag her into this. She felt anger arrive clean. Maya said, you already did. He tried to redirect the scene. Ethan said, flights are expensive. I'm doing my best. She tasted the old excuse and refused it. Maya said, your best happened in bars, not in calls. He went quiet, and the quiet accused him. Ethan said, you make it sound simple. She looked at the clock's blunt hands. Maya said, it is simple. Love is a voice that shows up. He swallowed the line. Ethan said, I can fix this. She held the silence long enough to weigh it. Maya said, prove it now, or say goodbye. The line crackled with a truth neither wanted. Ethan said, I do not have the money to repay yet. She felt the last hinge loosen. Maya said, you do have the words, use them honestly. He inhaled, then failed the moment. Ethan said, I need time. She nodded to no one. Maya said, time is all I gave. He searched for softer ground. Ethan said, please, do not leave. She stared at the alarm set for 2:59 a.m., the ritual that once felt holy. Maya said, if I stay, I vanish. He whispered her name like a cure. Ethan said, Maya. She picked up every broken piece of calm she had left. Maya said, return what you took, and call me in daylight, or stop calling at all. The silence answered first, heavy and complete. Morning broke thin and gray, and Maya Collins sat by the window holding her phone like a stone she no longer wanted to carry. Ethan Ward's last words echoed, unfinished and weak. She whispered, I cannot live inside pauses anymore. The coffee cooled untouched, its surface trembling as trucks rumbled past. She scrolled through their old photos one final time, each image a small betrayal disguised as memory. Her chest ached with the weight of every unanswered call. She whispered, love does not survive in silence. Nora Hayes' message appeared again. I'm here when you are ready. This time Maya didn't swipe it away. She whispered, Maybe ready means letting go. The light on her face felt cleaner than the night before, though her eyes burned raw. She closed the album and set the phone screen down, leaving her reflection in the glass, faint but unbroken. By afternoon, the apartment looked less like a waiting room and more like a place she lived. Maya gathered the scattered letters and photos, placing them in the shoebox once more, but this time she taped it shut. She whispered, "These are not anchors, only weights." The axe stung, yet it steadied her hands. She cleaned the dishes piled in the sink, each clink like a drumbeat against silence. She whispered, "Every corner deserves air again." The phone vibrated once, Ethan's name glowing, but she didn't reach for it. The sound cut through, but she let it fade. Outside, sunlight slipped across the buildings, careless and golden. She whispered, "Not every call deserves an answer." For the first time, her breath came without breaking, even though her chest still trembled under the ache. Later, she walked outside for the first time in days, the city alive with traffic and chatter. Each voice felt like proof that life moved whether she waited or not. She whispered, "The world never paused for my silence." The air was cool and sharp, and it filled her lungs differently. She ignored the buzz in her pocket, Ethan's name flashing again. Instead, she focused on the rhythm of her steps, the click of heels on pavement grounding her. She passed couples laughing at a cafe, the sight tugging at her heart, but not breaking it. She whispered, "I am not invisible, even if he treats me so." She pulled her jacket tighter, crossing the street with the crowd, blending into a movement bigger than her grief. For the first time, she felt distance not as loss but as possibility. Evening softened the streets into gold, and Maya returned home calmer than she expected. The phone lay on her table, buzzing again with Ethan's name, his persistence suddenly desperate. She whispered, "You cannot fix with urgency what you broke with neglect." She silenced the call and opened Nora's thread instead. The words she typed were simple, "Can we meet tomorrow?" Her hand trembled, but the relief was real. The room felt lighter, as if its walls loosened their hold. She whispered, "I will not drown in your silences anymore." She leaned back in her chair, hearing the city hum through the open window. The call history still showed his missed attempts, but for once it did not drag her down. It only proved that she had finally stopped waiting. Night fell quietly, and the alarm she once set for 2:59 a.m. remained untouched. Maya placed the phone face down and turned off the lamp, wrapping herself in the dark without fear. She whispered, "This night belongs to me." The silence carried no verdict, no sentence, only rest. Outside, rain returned, soft and steady, but it no longer mirrored her chaos. She stretched out on the bed, body heavy yet free. The city moved beyond her walls, and for once, she didn't need to chase its rhythm. The photos on the corkboard were gone, the box hidden from sight, the weight lifted if not erased. She whispered, "I am still here, even without him." The clock marked the hour, but she did not brace herself. Sleep came slowly, not as escape but as healing. Morning opened like a clean page, and Maya Collins met Nora Hayes at a quiet cafe that smelled of oranges and steam. Nora listened without interrupting as the story unspooled in simple threads. Maya said, "I kept waiting for the same midnight to save me." Nora's eyes softened. Nora said, "You kept you alive, not him." The truth settled between them like warm bread. Maya breathed deeper. She said, "I thought love was endurance." Nora said, "Love is presence." Sunlight pushed across the table, striking the rim of Maya's cup like a bell. She felt the tremor inside her steady at last. Maya said, "I am done being a place he only visits." Nora nodded once, a benediction disguised as friendship. The cafe clatter carried on, unaware it had witnessed an ending spoken softly. Back home, the apartment felt wider, as if walls had learned to breathe. Maya opened her banking app and set firm limits, the kind that do not bend for apologies. She drafted a single message to Ethan Ward, each word measured like a step on firm ground. She said, "Return the balance by month's end and stop calling at night." She read it twice and pressed send without shaking. The window offered a slice of sky that did not owe her weather. She cleaned the table where she once staged vigils for his ringtone. A soft relief unlaced the knots in her shoulders. The phone buzzed and buzzed again, but she let both calls end. She said, "My hours are daylight now." The sentence sounded like a key turning in the right door. Evening arrived with a voicemail that tried to pass for penance. Ethan's voice came thin, as if the miles had finally taxed him. Ethan said, "I messed up, but I can fix it." The line cracked, then stumbled through promises that had worn out their own souls. Maya listened once, and only once. She said, "I forgive what I understand, and I understand enough." She saved the message to a folder named Close, then deleted the folder. The act was small and seismic. She opened the window and let city air cross the room unharmed. A siren passed and faded. She said, "I will not archive my life for him again." The night did not resist her. She walked to the river after sunset, where bridges wore necklaces of light. The water held the city like a quiet rumor. She stood at the rail and watched a ferry thread the dark, steady and sure. Maya said, "I will be the boat, not the dock." She took out her phone and silenced every custom tone he ever owned. The list felt short compared to the nights it had ruled. She said, "No more alarms set for pleading." A couple laughed behind her, and the sound did not bruise. A cool wind slid across the water and carried away a name she did not need to keep. She turned for home lighter by the weight she finally put down. Near midnight, the old hour approached and found no altar waiting. The phone lay face down, and the room held only the hush of rain returning to roots. Maya slid into bed, without bargaining with clocks. Ethan's final call arrived and blinked against the wood like a moth. She watched it from a distance that measured new strength. She said, "I choose quiet that keeps me whole." The ring faded into a simple shape of nothing. Sleep reached for her without taking anything she could not spare. The night moved on, and she let it. Certain as a closed door that does not slam.